Welcome back to Inside with Outsiders. I'm Jeremy Asgari, and today's special guest is Terence Tubridy, who is the managing partner at In Good Company Hospitality, also known as IGC. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, pal. Good to be here, finally.
And I appreciate you making it all the way to Jersey just for me, man.
Oh, dirty Jersey in the building.
From Rockaway, from Long Island now.
Yeah, Rockville Center, the little hamlet of Rockville Center. Moved out to Long Island about 4 or 5 years ago from the city,
From the city, and you're originally from Rockaway, right?
Yeah, grew up in the Rockaways. Specifically, grew up in a small little island called Broad Channel, about 1,000 residents, houses on the stilts on the water. You pass it when you go to Rockaway.
So, okay, I didn't realize. I thought you actually grew up.
Well, I mean, yeah, I grew up, lived in Rockaway.
Yeah.
You know, like it's all the same. It's basically the same thing as Jersey City and Union City. It's very,
Gotcha.
you know, it's the same. It's really the same people, the same vibe. But yeah, so I went to junior high school in Rockaway. Went to grade school. Played basketball.
You play ball.
Well, you could say that. Maybe. You know, that's how we had the we had a mutual friend.
Right, yeah, rest in peace, Greg Harden.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's interesting. So you've become like the face of Rockaway in regards to like introducing Rockaway, in my opinion, introducing Rockaway to mainstream hospitality. I mean, the perfect example is the fact you opened up the Rockaway Hotel.
The Rockaway Hotel. That's a project 10 years. A lifetime in the making for some of us. So yeah, my family's been out in the Rockaways for 4 generations since the early 1900s, and from there we never left. I think actually out of 50 cousins, and I have 4 brothers.
You're Irish, by the way, right?
Yeah, I'm Irish. Yeah, and so.
So is Bam's, by the way. Bam is Irish and Puerto Rican. Interesting mix.
That is an interesting mix. No, it's the same, man. Island communities, man. Ireland's an island, and Puerto Rico's an island.
And they both drink the same, too.
That's
okay.
True. But no, we've been out there for 100 years, and I think it's me and my other cousins were like the only ones that actually leave and live outside of Rockaway. So, we've been down there forever. My father was in the restaurant business for 40 years. We actually took over his restaurant and in 2008 and opened up Bungalow Bar because we saw Rockaway, even for ourselves, we saw Rockaway shifting. We were starting to have kids. My brother was starting to have a family, and there was really nowhere for them to hang out in Rockaway. And so we're like, all right, let's take over our father's restaurant, which at that time was basically a clubhouse for him, smoke cigars and all that. But that's where Bungalow was like really not the first, but that's where it kind of started with Rockaway.
Was that your first venue?
No. So my father was in the bar business and the restaurant business, and in 1978 he opened a place called Pier 92.
It's funny, my dad was too.
Yeah.
But my dad was a famous bartender, actually.
Oh yeah?
He was on I forgot what channel he was on.
Aren't all bartenders famous?
But he was actually on TV for his recipe for eggnog, and mind you, my dad's from Iran, right? So it's not really Persian tradition or culture to be a bartender. I mean, it was Iran when he grew up. Now it's the Islamic Republic of Iran, so alcohol is illegal. But he was known for I think his margarita recipe, and he bartended in the Rainbow Room.
Oh wow, with Dale DeGroff. Dale's a big time bartender as well. I'm sure.
Yeah.
There's
we're talking like the 80s now.
That Dale DeGroff is being credited for like modern bartending, and if you look at, you have a lot of mutual friends that know Dale.
I'm
very
sure.
well.
Yeah.
But hospitality is what was in our blood, and we grew up in the business, and my father, I think, worked us when we were 5, 6 years old. I remember helping out at the restaurant, and as you grow up in it, you hate it, right? And then you realize, oh, there's money in my pocket.
Right.
At 12 years old, 13 years old, and all your friends, 7th, 8th grade, are like, yo, get me a job. And I'm like, I don't know if it's legal for you to work, but all right. And my father's like neighborhood kids. He hired them all, and some of them hated him, and some of them loved him.
Right.
But you kind of saw my father had one place, and he dedicated his life to it. And then it's funny, like I'm 41 right? And I remember when now you remember like your father's age when, like, and that's scary as fuck, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, I owe
I mean, especially for me, because like I'm 42. I was 17 when my dad was 42. I don't have any kids. I can't imagine having a 17-year-old right now.
Yeah, so it's seeing that kind of.
I was a 16, yeah.
And my father, around 41, you could tell he started pulling away from the business.
Yeah.
Because the business is hard. And he always said it's a young man's business. So when we started and opening up our first places, it was Metro 53. Really, was with my brother D and some of my cousins. It was on 53rd between 1st and 2nd.
Okay.
2002.
Wow.
And it was extremely successful, really successful.
No, I remember
those
hearing about
those East Side bars.
I remember like it was a very popular place for college kids. NYU, because the NYU dorm wasn't too far.
No, 53rd between 1st and 2nd.
No, I know there wasn't. My friend had it was like a remote NYU dorm, which was like away from campus. For some reason, it was up there. I remember us going there.
It was a popular post-work and post-college East Side hangout. Exactly. And then from there, we opened up a place on the Upper East Side called Saloon, which was one of the original like dance clubs, cabaret. In 2002, like cabaret licenses meant something.
Ridiculous, man.
But it meant something.
You need a permit to be able to dance. What is this, Footloose?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So it's a crazy. Now it's I think done, but we had a cabaret license up there, so we opened up a place called Saloon. Before that, it was a place called Madison's. But you got to look at like. Coming in the business, there was no mobile DJ booths, right? Like that technology only really started to happen with CD burners and CDs to bring in speakers every time and set up at a local bar. It was the jukebox, right? Yeah. And then the late 90s, early 2000s, you started to see mobile DJs within small bars, And so
and Serato helped out with that too.
Serato, yeah. I mean, dude, I used to walk into when I DJ'd. We used to have a case, lug the all your crap in.
And it was a great excuse to have your friends join you because they're carrying the crates.
True.
I got into some good events carrying crates in for like DJ Reach.
Yeah.
Got to Paris Hilton's party in Miami for that. Like random.
But they also let you like friends of mine who DJ'd at like China Club back in the they let you keep the crates there.
Yeah.
And so but
what was your DJ name?
DJ lame as fuck. DJ Terence.
DJ Terence.
Nah, I mean it was like
that's not that bad. You didn't like make up like DJ Magic or something.
Yeah, but there was no Facebook or there was no like. It was you DJ'd. You were good. You knew people. Like went to high school in Manhattan. Went to college in the Bronx. Right? Yeah, like that circle of influence. Like people would come. Like they know that other people would be there and like have a good time. So. Right. DJing brought me. It made me understand another side of the business that I kind of picked up from my father, but DJing was like the fun factor part of it, right? And like how to bring people up and how to bring people down, how to level out a crowd. You could feel like when you walk into a club, like you'll know, like the energy's not right. Yeah. The DJ controls that. Music controls. Of course. That. So. Brought me out to the Hamptons. I was DJing out there.
Really? So this is obviously before you opened up.
This was actually 2000, just 2001. So the summers before we opened Metro 53, and then
so I'm guessing you also promoted as well. And
yeah, I think the DJ was the promoter, right? Like so, it made a bigger circle of networking and all that, and like we were East Side Saloon guys. Like I didn't get to know you because I didn't hang out at the cool clubs, bro. Sorry, But
sure, but I think what you've established with your business is the fact that we talked about this last time we saw each other. Like, there's the cool clubs everyone knows about, but then like their longevity is minimal, right? And then there's an actual business plan where you have longevity. You don't have to rely on everyone else to bring you business because you just created a brand.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about it because we were at Ludlow House, right? Yes. And that's where Libation was. And I'm in the room like, man, this place was like our baby for 15 years. And I remember the first time we bought Libation off of two guys that we somewhat knew. And you could just tell the club business was just getting to them, right? But we knew, we were young. I was 26 at the time. Yeah. And I was like, we'll be able to manage this place. We walk in, they had their promoters. So everybody's all right. Everybody could, everybody's got their job here, no problem. And then we just saw like these promoters and us are not going to be, we're not going to be on the same page. And we didn't really need them. Like we had our own network of friends and support, and that's, you know, grateful. We grew up in the city. So it's like promoters lasted, I think, 2 weeks with us, you know. I'm sure some names that you'll remember.
I'm sure. I remember going to a party there right before it switched hands. I think I know who.
That's right. Were. Yeah.
So, like you said, you grew up in the city. What was it like growing up in Rockaway in the '80s? I mean, I don't know as far as the island, the area you grew up in Rockaway, but I know Rockaway was a place that you didn't really want to catch yourself at sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's such a dichotomy. Like it's a dichotomy, right? Like it's a long peninsula, right, that jets out. It is a transportation desert, right? It's the A train. That's the only, you know, it took us an hour and 15 minutes to go into high school every day, every morning. And, you know, you have, and just poor city planning, right? So like you have a residential neighborhood with 1 and 2 family homes that were built there in the 30s and 40s and 50s. And that's where my parents grew up. And then you have, you know, then in the 60s and the 50s and 60s, the GI Bill and all, there was public housing built. And all those summer bungalows that were there and where, again, like people from the Bronx and people from Manhattan would come down with their families, Jewish, Italian, Irish. Yeah. The white flight happened. Yeah. And those 70s and 80s there in Rockaway were rough. Yeah. Because there was no development. There was no foresight. And, you know, growing up there, you would talk to your dad or your grandparents and you're like, you know, you see the pictures of Rockaway in its heyday and you're like, how come it isn't like that now? Right. And how come, you know, the bars are just underage bars and like, you know, it's, you know, where we, you know, went to play basketball, like it's rough, man. Yeah. It's a rough neighborhood. And thank God we were able to kind of get out because of family, right? And because of, and not get out, but only just improve, hopefully, what's already there. And that comes down from my grandparents and my parents, but the 80s and 90s were rough.
In all of New York City for that was the white flight, they call it?
White flight. 70s was like white flight, but yeah, I mean, 80s is when you saw
crack epidemic and all that stuff. Yeah,
saw it really, really hitting. Again, like I was, 10 in 1991, but I remember vividly, like, you know, you didn't want to get caught on the wrong side of the tracks or in the wrong neighborhood, all of that.
And we've had a couple of people we've interviewed here that grew up in the Lower East Side in the 80s. I mean, well, one that grew up in the 90s, and the other one Pat, who's like grew up in the 70s.
Late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, in the LES. He was telling us about like similarities to war zones, like rubble. Like if you weren't part of a clique or a gang, or if you weren't hustling, then you had to find protection.
You know, again, I have a big family, so like we were like a tribe.
Yeah.
We still kind of are.
Yeah.
And so, and my mother was a school teacher in Far Rockaway. My aunt was the principal at junior high school on 180, which was like, she was an assistant principal.
Must have been tough growing up and having that.
Junior high school 180 and Beach Channel, like those were rough schools. I couldn't imagine now sending my kid to like what we went through in 180 or, you know, and it goes to show you like there's been progress made and you know, again, it comes back to like, giving a shit about your own your own community.
Well, what do you think when did you start seeing a shift in like the neglect for Rockaway to then slowly developing?
Yeah. The late 90s, there's a toll on 2 bridges coming into Rockaway that the residents had to pay. Right. So if you lived in Broad Channel or my father had a business in Rockaway and lived in Broad Channel, so he would cross the bridge 8-10 times a day.
You told me stories about your dad and
dude,
the tolls.
It's like
I want to hear some of those, man.
So everything that the TBTA or the MTA has come up with toll technology, I swear to God, it's because my father broke every goddamn rule there was about it. So like you guys remember like the old tolls it used to be wood, right?
Yeah.
The toll thing, right? So my father would just break the toll. He'd go right through the toll.
And there was no cameras then, so
there was no cameras, and we're like, all right, well they're not gonna catch him, and he would, break it. Then you started to see the rubber thing around the wood, so it wouldn't break it. And then, dude, the days of like, I'm not gonna say if my father used to go to Ireland every year or two.
Story I remember you saying.
And he would come back with like an extra suitcase of like pence, right? The Irish penny, right? And the Irish penny basically was the same size as an MTA token. And finally they figured that out, right? So they switched that, and they did the token with the hole, the hole in the middle.
I think
and then I mean, the stories don't stop. So like there was a toll in the same zip code. And we just thought it was bullshit. And it was, because Rockaway was an attraction. They made a ton of money off of this bridge and so on. But my father and a number of other people fought this thing, protested it. So they would line cars up on Sunday, like along Cross Bay Boulevard on a Sunday. And my father actually worked at the toll booth when he was a teenager, so he knew how much change they would have. And everybody would get a $50 bill or a $100 bill. And they would make the toll collectors run out of change early on in the day. So what would they have to do? The banks are closed on Sunday, and so they would have to let people go over the bridge for free. I mean, this is the shit that, like, you know, now you can laugh at it, but like, yo, they fought for this free toll.
Right.
And like, even as a kid.
For residents.
For everybody. For everybody.
But it's still a toll.
Well, why isn't there a toll on the 59th Street Bridge?
Why?
Why isn't there a toll on the Williamsburg Bridge? And we were saying, well, there's a toll on the Cross Bay and the Marine Parkway Bridge. Why?
Yeah.
Because they know 5 million people go to Rockaway in the summer, and they're no problem paying, you know, that $1.
By the way, he's not banging on the table too loud.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Sometimes
just do me a favor, just move the mic a little closer to your face.
Yeah. So my father, and again, community organizers were like, fuck this toll. Like, how do we get rid of this thing? That hurt development.
Right.
And so in 1999, they got rid of the toll through a deal with the commuter tax that Giuliani was involved in, that the state, you know, Pataki was involved in. So finally we got rid of this thing, and then you started to see a little bit more development happening because there was basically unused land in Rockaway, Auburn by the Sea.
And do you think the toll has a factor with the development?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
How much was the toll?
By the time they got rid of it, well, the toll now is $4.75. So just equate that to you living there and bringing your kids to a doctor's office or to a basketball game, back and forth of practice,
but
8 times a day.
So they got rid of the toll and they re-implemented it?
So what they did was they made a deal, said the residents, because of Easy Pass, the residents get a discount, meaning we don't pay, and then the people pay, you know, people that had an Easy Pass would get a discount because that's what happens with all of them. So the toll is still there, right? Like, it's still, you know, I say this, like Hurricane Sandy, right, wiped out Rockaway. The only business that was back open fully 24 hours after Hurricane Sandy was the fucking toll.
Oh, wow.
And we had Bloomberg down there, we had Cuomo, and they were charging volunteers a toll.
What?
Yeah. You go back to my Twitter. They were charging volunteers a toll to go help Rockaway. And finally, somebody was like, what are we doing? Like, all right, we're going to block, you know, for the next week, we're going to stop the toll. But like, that, to me, when you're thinking about, well, I'm commuting, I got to pay a toll here, I got to pay a toll there, you know, that does stop people, I think, from, you don't think about it, oh, it's a quarter, it's 50 cents. That's exactly how government wants you to think about it.
What's the year we're talking here?
This was the toll was 1999, but the toll was implemented in the late 60s when the new bridge, there was always a toll bridge there, but when more winter residences in Rockaway, that's when more people were aware of this. Like, why are we paying this toll? It was a nickel, then it was 10 cents, then it was a quarter, then it was 50, then it was $1. Like, when there's a toll, it only goes up.
What is the Verrazano Bridge? Is like $27.
It's absurd.
It's insane.
It's 20,
and it was
22.
That's insane.
And when Moses built all these, Robert Moses built all these bridges, it's there to pay for the bridge, and then the toll goes away. That never happens.
No, remember the same when buses increase prices because of gas.
Yeah,
it stays up.
So with Rockaway, Auburn by the Sea was a huge kind of project that was basically 1,000 acres of land, beachfront property that was developed. And that's where Beach 67th Street is. I think you were down there. That's a whole new neighborhood, 20 years.
Surf and,
Scootin', all of them are down there. And so that's a whole nother neighborhood that just, appeared in the last 20 years. And the key to making that neighborhood successful was obviously local local stakeholders buying into it, and then also giving the right, what affordable housing. So cops and firemen only had to put down 5% to own a home. And so what's great about Auburn is it's a diverse neighborhood, but it's also, you're living on the beach and you still live in New York City.
Right.
So
those are people who live there all year round. Those
all
are
year
the
round.
summer homes.
All year round.
When did you move out of Rockaway?
I moved to the city in 2002
Yeah.
after college. I went to Mount St. Vincent in the Bronx, and then I was out, man. We lived in a bungalow in college out in Rockaway on like 101st Street, and I never went back home after freshman year of college.
Yeah.
And from there, moved into Manhattan on the Upper East Side. I did the typical, post-college, Upper East Side.
Yeah.
Then, all right, let me find, Normandy Court. And then actually I lived above Libation, to be honest, for about 2.5 years. My wife, my poor wife. It was her idea. So.
And what was the sound, or just the fact that the block and that whole area?
The block, the sound of the club. So, I mean, we were busy Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, but it was an interesting, you learn a lot as far as living above a nightclub on the Lower East Side. But we saved a ton of money, and then we were able to buy a home in out in Queens or out in Long Island. So it was worth the struggle.
You're a suburb guy now. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, dude. I got the pickup truck. I got the sweatpants. I'm Long Island. I'm Flid, bro. I'm Long Island dad.
Yeah.
Take the kids to lacrosse.
Lacrosse is so Long Island.
All that. They don't play ball in the streets like like we used to. You got to drive them everywhere. When we were in 3rd, 4th grade, man, we were jumping off bridges and like complete dirtbags, right?
Yeah.
Now these kids are like, they're so scheduled and they're so. Like, we got to bring.
You guys were the original outsiders.
Well, yeah, I guess so. But yeah, that's the whole lot. I take the Long Island Railroad into work.
Yeah,
it's kind of nice.
Yeah,
I was used to the A train for all those years, and I'm like,
if teenage you was hearing you right now, they'd be disappointed.
Dude, I said, like, I'm telling you, when I first started taking the Long Island Railroad into Penn Station, and people complain about Penn Station, I get it, but there's a bar where you can hang out in Penn Station to wait for your train, like. That's amazing. Do you know what it's like to wait for the A train out in Rockaway?
Yeah.
Do you know what it's like to wait on West 4th on a 90-degree day and waiting for that F train transfer? Like, no, I'll take Penn Station in its worst.
Yes.
And Long Island Railroad at its worst than the A train any day of the week.
So you're born and raised, right? Where were you born? You're born in.
I was born at St. John's Episcopal Hospital out in Far Rockaway, and
so
then
you're a true Yorker then.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
A true Yorker, yeah.
Okay.
So there's a brand our guys at the Bridge Runners have started. It's called True Yorker, and they only give out their gear to people who were born and raised in New York. They even ask for birth certificates sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's this thing. I wasn't born here. I wasn't born in New York. Actually, I lived in Jersey, so I wasn't even born in this country. So.
I don't know if I play into the whole True York thing. Like, to me, because I hate the word bridge and tunnel. Like, to me, it just presents. Yeah.
That's because back in the day, Brooklyn was included in that. Queens, your bridge and tunnel if you don't live in Manhattan proper.
Really? Okay, yeah. So I didn't know but it was used to put people down.
Of course it was.
Right? And so, like, I
lived in Jersey.
Bridge and tunnel trash. That's what they were called.
Yeah.
One of something funny is I interned at Crowbar when I was like 23, 24, and 3,000 people in the venue or whatever. You're gonna have to have all bridge and tunnel in there. The screensavers in the office had the Port Authority logo on them.
That's pretty funny.
That was hilarious. Yes.
That was pretty. Yeah.
Shout out to Port Authority. Bam's daytime gig.
Good gig.
Yeah.
Good gig.
So wait, what are your thoughts on the whole?
I mean, look, I just, to me, like, if you're cool, you're cool. Don't.
Right.
The whole, like, I just saw an article about Rockaway being gentrified and all that, but it's being gentrified from within, a lot of it. And people are like, what, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, being like, what's your thoughts on, like, Rockaway? It's changing. And I'm like, look, I'd rather be, yelped about by a bunch of guys in beards than chased by the gangs that looking to steal our bikes.
Right.
Like,
but like you said, I think it's complicated, right?
Yeah.
But what you said is being developed by local Rockaway residents.
It's the only way it's gonna.
Right.
I think the only way to truly help change your neighborhood is it's got to come from within.
Right.
And also and big visions, right? And so like people, when we were doing the Rockaway Hotel, people were like, "Are you out of your mind?"
Right.
And yeah, guess so. Guess we are. But that was 2010 is when we've kind of like, oh, we need a motel down here. We need something. We need a 15-room, with a taco shack, and it turned into this 60-room. And we just tried to check as many boxes as we can of what we thought was lacking in the neighborhood,
right?
And kind of this community hub that we wanted to create. Even though there's plenty of community hubs down there and all that, but there was no catering hall, right? There was no banquet space. There was no true
wedding venues.
Yeah, wedding venues. Just even concert venues. So like you look like I compare Rockaway a lot of times to Asbury Park. And Asbury,
good comparison.
Yeah, it changed from within. A lot of the locals.
I agree, and that's why I think Asbury's gotten so much success as opposed to like Atlantic City, for example, who tried to do didn't go back to the roots. It was people trying to make it Vegas in Jersey, and as you know, Atlantic City is not. Talking about Rockaway in the '80s, Atlantic City is still there.
Yeah.
Oh, and it is sketchy as shit down there. It really is. We were just down there like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, we went down about a month ago for a concert, and we got there early, so we ended up walking around, meeting up with some friends and walking on the boardwalk, grab a beer, and man, it's reminiscent. I'm like, this still feels like the 80s.
My grandparents used to bring us to Atlantic City, and my grandfather taught us how to gamble when we were like 16. And they're like, look, if they ask you for ID, just tell them your grandfather has it up in the room. You got to go get it.
Yeah.
And so like we've seen Atlantic City go from the complete shitholes to the Borgata.
Right.
And like, oh, this is Atlantic City's on the right track. But yeah, I mean, COVID.
Asbury Park was on the right track.
Yeah.
They went back to their roots and maintained the character and the charm that it originally had.
Yep.
And I see what you're doing with Rockaway. Seems like, is that what you're trying to do?
Look, I go back.
You got one piece. I'm saying overall, as Rockaway's development overall.
I just like where we grew up. You want to be proud of it. And so like when we would bring friends down from college, we're like, yo, and show off how cool my neighborhood, like the neighborhood I'm in right now with you guys, like, yo, we grew up here. Like, I'm proud of this spot, right? And I want to show you all the nooks and crannies of that. And to me, it was a real simple like idea. Like, well, we need a hotel because that will help, make the groundwork for showing this place off. And there's families that, need a hotel to stay, right?
Yeah.
Like it just made sense to us.
Right.
And it didn't make sense to any bank. It didn't make sense to any lenders, right? Like we went to 400 or 500 different banks and family offices, and it was a struggle to get that built.
Yeah.
And then, luckily, like our partnership was just really strong to be able to just push through and then push through to open up in COVID, basically September 2020. And like, we were like, oh, the New York Times wrote an article like, oh, is Rockaway ready for a $300 a room night, hotel or something like that? It was almost like a little bit of a hit piece on what we were doing. Like,
right.
And to me, they completely missed the story, right? Like for us, it was like, look, these guys are pretty successful in Manhattan, right? They grew up out in Queens. They had some bars and restaurants in Manhattan, and then they wanted to invest all of their money and their lives, with a few other people into this community, and you think it was going to be like this big corporation. It's like, no, man,
Right.
like we're beer and burger guys that are trying to do the right thing to make sure like our kids have something.
And they didn't commend you. They kind of were cheeky about it.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, but no, Rockaway's ready for a $600 room night or a $1,000 room night or whatever it is.
Look at the summer.
Yeah.
Look at you were fully booked.
Every article that comes out to Rockaway, for some reason, somehow in an inadvertent way, puts it down.
Let me ask you, these writers maybe you don't know, are they from New York?
No, they can't. Yeah, they've been here for 10 years.
These are the same people that shit on Bridge and Tunnel.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, you're not in Manhattan? Like, oh, where do you live? You live in Jersey? You live in Queens?
Yeah.
I live in Manhattan. Oh, where'd you grow up? Wisconsin? Yeah, cool. You don't have to say
I
about
mean,
that.
it's an understanding of the New York City neighborhoods and Jersey's a part of that. Jersey City's a part of that, right? And
Northern Jersey, yeah.
Yeah, and this, we go back like the CYO connection or the AAU connection or like we're just a bunch of small little neighborhoods that make up this larger city, and the connections and the networks go back generations.
Yeah.
And so when somebody moves here from Ohio and like, oh, I want to live in the Lower East Side and blah blah blah, it's like, yeah, that's great,
ahead,
but don't shit on the other neighborhood that know.
I mean, my favorite places the places I think really showcase the charm of this part of the country, New York City, like the old mom and pop shops. Like there's a Cuban spot a few blocks away from here, a $6 breakfast, $9 dinner. Like those are the spots, the authentic spots. Like the little Indian spot that the cabbie goes to, or the original Italian deli, or the beer and burger spot. Like those are the authentic places. The trendy, and occasionally you'll get a local who reinvents that concept but understands the culture it comes from. It's when somebody comes that doesn't know the first thing about it and tries to create a trendy spot, and that's to me, that's not real New York.
Yeah, no, New York's big, but it's real small.
Yeah.
And so, people, like, I see there's so many gems in New York City. And what's great to see is, like, a place like Roland Roaster and Brennan and Carr getting its due from these, food bloggers. Like, man, we've been going there since we were kids.
Yeah.
And
Ray's Candy Store in LES.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect example. Yeah.
So that's the beautiful thing about New York City. Like, some of us are never going anywhere. Like, it's like, oh, I'm going to move to Florida. Like, oh, I can't wait to get out of here. Like, yes, but like, are we? Can we leave here, man? Like, this city's pretty fucking phenomenal when the city's on its game.
I mean, for so many reasons. I think a lot of culture that is adopted all over the world originates here. Not everything, obviously. There's things originate in other places, but I think this is where trends tend to start, in my opinion. And I am biased, but I hear it from people who aren't from here, who come here. There's a lot of charm. There's so much it has to offer, like this melting pot, all this stuff. It's definitely a place where, if you had asked me if I would live elsewhere, I'd say I'd like to experience living 6 months here, living 6 months there. But I think based on a home, I don't know if there's anywhere better than this place.
Well, I think that's what attracted my grandparents, my family to Rockaway.
Yeah.
And because you are living on the water or the beach or the bay, but they worked, many of them worked in the city. They were cops and they were firemen or what have you. So,
I mean, the Irish immigrants are a huge part of New York City's history.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, enormous.
I mean, again, it's that. That immigrant story, and that immigrant story is the same. It's the same story of when Puerto Ricans started to move in the 50s and 60s, right? And it's the same story of Ecuadorians or East Indian moving in the 80s and 90s. So nothing's changed from that story. We all want something better for our kids. We want something better for our families. We want a safe home, hot shower.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anything really as there's no difference between the Irish immigrants and the Italian immigrants and the South American immigrants or the Mexican immigrants of today. There's no difference. It's real simple.
I hear, and it's funny. I've realized everybody wants the same thing. I realized that through my travels. Like I remember, and it really hit me when I was in the Yunnan province of China. No Westerners there on vacation. I was there for a wedding, right? And
who's getting married?
My friend's cousin got married to this woman that's part of government. You good? So she's her family's in government there and so on. But anyway, we're there in a place where no one else really travels to as a tourist. And I was just walking around this little town. It's kind of like a town where people might go on vacation that are from the area or from China. And I saw the same thing I saw there that I would see in Rockaway, for example, in Miami. And families going to dinner together, after dinner, walking around and seeing whatever's interesting, having ice cream, just having a good time. That everyone wants the same thing. And once we all realize that, we'll all get along. But
we're not much different.
No, not at all.
We saw that coming back from the pandemic when finally New York allowed, us to open, and people were coming into our spots, bungalow or even in the city, and were just crying to say thank you, like you're here, and that human connection.
Oh, 100%.
And you know, the hospitality industry was there to kind of, you know, I think we played psychologist, you know, and again, it,
always have, but yeah, more
yeah,
so,
we always have, but even then, like, because we were dealing with our own shit, and it's like now we're dealing with, you know, people, the confusion and the projection and the, you know, this person there. I mean, the stories that like just even coming out, like a bungalow bar, right? And this is what's beautiful about America, and just, you know, I tell a story, like there was a dude with a Black Lives Matter t-shirt, and there's a boat, you know, that has a Trump flag, right? And so we're a place of business, right? And to us, same thing. If you're cool, we're cool.
Right.
You treat me with respect, you're not going to have any problems here.
Yeah.
So of course, somebody somewhere has to get offended by something, and it's real simple. And you know, the person was like, "I can't believe you're serving the you know, that Trump flag." And it's like, look, would you like us to change your seat? Right? Yeah. There's about 10 guys on there. They've been drinking all day. They're on the boat. They're about to leave. You want us to go down there and, you know, with one of our bounces and, you know, say, "Excuse me, we're like," does that make any sense to this? Or how about let's have a conversation with each other? Because those guys don't seem like bad guys. You don't seem like a bad guy. You're all here in the same place. You know, let's, you know, that's cool.
I agree, but, you know, modern day technology doesn't make for that. It makes for polarization, right? So
absolutely, yeah. We're all getting our own bubble.
Exactly.
And we got to break those bubbles and that self-talk and that inner ego.
And it's funny what you mentioned about the pandemic and people like mental health and wanting connection. It kind of created a different dynamic for outsiders, right? So when we got that partnership with Volvo that allowed us to pick business back up in a safe manner, we were like the only show in town for social environments that were safe. So we were getting people that were just like telling us, you know, we haven't seen other people have been social in about 8 months, or it was a weird dynamic, but we got people that really connected. And I saw some people who wrote some amazing reviews for us because they were just so touched by be around other people and being hosted. You know, stuff that hospitality and so on we do, that's part of the biz. But it was just, I felt good about what we were doing. Honestly, I felt good because it was an outlet for me to be social and see other people, but I felt good being able to offer that and improve mental health.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm a big fan of you know, what you're doing. I've been a big fan when you first...
And you, along with a few other people, told me the importance and how good it was before I even realized how good it was.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Oh, of course. I mean, like, the pivot that you were making way before this pandemic, of just like your own mental health, and say, man, we just need to do more stuff outside, and it just doesn't need to be around drinking. Right, that's fun. It doesn't need to be around.
And it's not anti-drinking. It's not anti-consumption. It's just more balanced. Realistically, like if you're trying to create a habit and something sustainable, let's be honest, like doing hikes and active stuff and eating kale and granola and not partaking in anything that might be social and fun or you know, consumption of something that might not be the best for you is unrealistic in my opinion. I think it's about balance. So for me, I just got tired of having to consume to be social. Like, you know, and I was making money off of venues and events that were based on generating revenue through alcohol sales. But I don't like that as being the only social option for us in New York or in any urban environment.
Yeah. No, it made plenty sense to me early on. And I want to know, outsiders 5 years from now, what does it look like?
I've been getting that question 3 times this week.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've been catching up with friends I haven't seen in a while. And the 5-year plan, not to get into specific details, but it's really to be in more cities, increase our memberships, or we'll add a membership component soon. But just scale and have in more cities, have more frequency in every city we launch, increase the frequency like we have in New York, and create this global community that gets together, whether it be our destination trips or just if we have members that move around and travel a bunch, to be able to create this global community. I always use this as an example. I think Fight Club without the fighting.
Yeah, no, it's the you know, again, like these membership clubs, Soho House, all that, and what you're creating.
Inclusive though.
Yes.
Not exclusive.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what resonates with a lot of people, that you don't need to be around 4 walls to be a part of a club.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes some people have a hard time grappling with that. People always ask me, like, why don't you join this club or join? And I'm like, I fortunately have a strong, I go to the bar for my club.
Right, network, exactly. But it's about communities.
Yes.
We're humans are tribal, right? So you need to have that community that you feel like what I've been calling outsiders and the need for outsiders is your chosen family, right? You can't choose your family. You can choose your friends, but having a community of friends when it's sometimes if you're not from here or even if you're from here, your group of friends aren't up on the things you've become a fan of. Like you like being outdoors now. Maybe your friends aren't much outdoor folks. They'd rather sit in the bar. But you want to go out and you can't find people to do that with. Now you do it with us. Now you have a group of friends to do that, and that's the focus of it. Like we're not tour operators in the traditional sense, right? We're not just bringing people out to the outdoors and providing experience. I'm like, okay, cool. Hope you liked it. Write us a good review. No, it's like, okay, we're creating a group of friends where like you can hang out with the people you meet outside of our events. You can reach out to us for resources. Like if you're doing something really cool, like if you're opening up a hotel, we'll blast it out on our network because we want to make that community aspect. We want to have a community that can help our members grow. Because if they grow, we grow, and that's not the objective. But bringing everyone up around you doesn't necessarily mean you go down. There's always there's abundant. There's a world of abundance, so there's always room for everybody.
Yeah,
1,000%. So to the back to the Rockaway Hotel. Let's do some more stuff, man.
Yeah, no.
I don't know when this is going to air, but we're working on something in the spring. This will probably air before we launch that. But I think
the value proposition you talk about, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. What we try to do at the Rockaway Hotel is that we're not just a hotel. We are a larger community. There's a fantastic arts program that my partner Michi curates. And it is about inclusivity, and it's about respecting and honoring, Rockaway's past, but also about, the future. Right. And so one of the things that we're just, we have an outdoor pool, and what do you do with an outdoor pool? Yeah. We're on the ocean. There's a group of people that jump in the ocean every Sunday. Yeah. And they do their own like mini polar plunge. Yeah. But from us, we put some saunas out at the pool deck. Yeah. And we're doing this kind of hot cold therapy, and it's packed, and people want day passes all the time. So hopefully something like that happens with us.
We're working on that.
And
so
then
there's more stuff. I mean, I think your idea of getting wellness involved in a hospitality business that is also a lot heavily based on consumption, but involving other aspects. So that's not the only value proposition, entertainment and stuff that's not purely in those four walls.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, what wellness isn't just about the physical, the mindset. Yeah. It's the mental mindset that's probably more important than the physical. Yeah. So I mean, staying and engaging with other people is really important, and then also like checking in, right? Like we haven't caught up in a while, and then we had coffee, and like, dude, it was such a great thing to catch up. Yeah. And like, what happened to that dude? What happened to that dude? And then like, maybe I should reach out to that person. And so that's what hospitality at the end of the day is all about.
Great. So I'm gonna get into some questions that we asked most of our interviewees. What motivates you to keep on pursuing your goal? Like what are you inspired by?
Sure, motivation.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember 20 years ago, or when I was a teenager, to have money in my pocket was to be able to go and get, I'm a guy, I like restaurants. Look at the size of me. So if I had money in my pocket to get the meal I wanted, like go to that steakhouse or go to that burger, your motivations obviously change through life. And when you reflect back on like why did we do that, or why? And it always comes back to the people around you. And so like my proudest moments were when guys who managed for us or bartenders who used the hospitality business as a segue to get them to where they need to be, whether it was to become a fireman, to become a doctor, to become a real estate, whatever it is. And so like my proudest moment's always like, we were able to be that segue for them. We were able to give them a job. And so they were able to become a hero, right?
Yeah.
Like they're able to become who they want, a teacher. So, at the end of the day, my motivation's always been like, how do I get that person a job, or can I get them work? And that hopefully gives them agency and motivation and all that. I mean, if you think you get into the bar business because you're going to make money, you are sorely mistaken.
It's just, I always saw it as a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Now, for me, it was like, what's that next step going to be? But I knew with what I was doing was promoting, my network was going to be the solution to finding out what the next step was. Yeah,
I mean, again, my partner Jeff is motivating for me. My brother's motivating, but so like your motivations might change, but they really just come down to like what your core being is, right? Yeah. And it was always to help people, and people need help, you help them.
Right. The
bar business or the restaurant business, the hospitality business is a means to help people, and it's always been that way. And so, whether it was, post 9/11 and being like that place where people came and congregated because they were sad and because they were frustrated. Post Hurricane Sandy, all of our places were destroyed. Well, we were getting help. That was, we would never expect from people in the hospitality. And then COVID, right? Feeding hospitality workers or feeding first line people. Like, that's what this business is always about. That's my motivation always. Like, how do we help this person who wants help? Some people don't want it, but
that's true. That's a great, and that's very selfless. What is a dream that you've yet to achieve?
I should have an answer for that right off the bat, but it was to open up a hotel.
Right.
It was.
Is there another dream?
There's a manifest, right. So.
Or maybe you could tag on to that dream. Like, what's
I think the dream for me would be, how do I, looking at the second half of, the next 40 years of my life, and making sure I'm making the right decisions towards whether it's staying in this business or not. But I think the dream for me would be like selling IGC hospitality, and it's what we do and the services that we do and some of the places that we have, an exit for that would be probably, a dream for that. And that could be 5 years, that could be 10 years.
Right.
That could be tomorrow.
But knowing you'd probably do something else. What would that next
probably
thing
be? I think for me, like we use the hospitality business to help people.
Yeah. So
in some way, I think we would be looking at whether it's helping other entrepreneurs realize their dreams, kind of like what we did on that retreat.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Whether it's coaching but we do that every day.
Already. I was saying you already consult with other hospitality groups and businesses. So.
We do. So like I think that's something that we're probably
and fulfilling as well. So I can see that
very much so.
Yeah. What is your favorite part of Outsiders?
Favorite part of Outsiders besides Jeremy?
Yeah, exactly. Besides me.
I mean, isn't that everybody's favorite part?
What's great about it is people, and this makes me happy, but when I was doing parties, everyone came, mostly, I'd say 85% because they knew me, right?
Yeah.
It's funny, now I've created Outsiders, and the joy I get when people show up and like, hey, are you also here for Outsiders? I'm like, yeah, I'm here for Outsiders too. They don't know me.
Yeah.
Which I like.
Yes.
Because it's gone beyond just me.
Critical mass.
Exactly.
It's happening.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's happening.
So
my favorite, I said this about Outsiders. I love the pivot. I love the ingenuity of the thinking of like, daytime, a daytime, and it could be a nighttime activation, but getting outside. Yeah. It's a primal thing humans need. We need to get outside, and it's safe to go outside.
Right, exactly. Thankfully, like, I mean, everyone was like, you're genius to have started this during the pandemic. I'm like,
no.
What? I started this 5 years before the pandemic started.
They said that about the hotel. You're genius to open up a hotel. No, that was, a long time.
Exactly. But, I mean, I'm thankful that I started it when I did, so that by the time the pandemic hit, we had all the systems in place, and we were,
It's what you do. It's what you do. You make people feel, you make people feel at home. You did that when you were, hosting at all these clubs, and that's what you do. So it's
I
easy.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's fun. I like meeting new people.
It's good to see.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Now, it's a funny question. What is your most embarrassing moment? No one is topped Javier yet. We had interviewed a couple people yesterday. I know you don't know Javier, but Javier's embarrassing moment was amazing. He getting on the school bus had the Adidas tearaway pants.
No. It was an MTA bus.
Oh, it was MTA bus?
Yeah, it was an MTA bus.
So it was a.
He was going to school though.
Yeah, he was going to school, and he gets on the bus. Door closes on a piece of his pants. He walks up the stairs, rips the pants off. He's in his tidy whities on the bus. Man. So that's the best. That's the best one so far.
I guess a similar moment. First of all, let's go. Is it pants or shortied?
What's that?
When
shorty? Oh yeah.
When somebody pulls down your
pants,
short,
yeah.
Is it pantsed or shortied?
That depends where you're from. I say pantsed.
All right.
Yeah.
No, I grew up being you got shortied.
Okay.
But because most of the time it was in shorts, it wasn't pants. But anyway, most embarrassing.
We didn't discriminate pants or shorts.
Yeah.
Everyone got it.
We got. I guess I was in third grade and I was in the ocean, and it was like in September we had like a heat wave, and so waves were coming over, and I had like board shorts. A wave came up, took off my board shorts, and it was like I had to be fourth, fifth grade. I mean, I was well aware that boys have penises and girls have vaginas. Yeah. And I had to come out of the ocean in front of like my whole family, and give me a towel, like crying, So like that's
comparable to hobbies.
That's
good.
You jumped up on it, like you either go under the wave or over the wave, and for some reason I went over the wave and took my shorts right off, gone. Yeah.
Wait, why did you just stay in the water and have somebody bring you a towel? Why would you?
Because it was getting rough. It was like I shouldn't have been in the water, but it was a hurricane. There was like a hurricane off the coast that had like sick waves, but I had to go out further enough because then I would have got trampled by the wave. Like I had to go out.
Yeah. All right, good story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Last question: Is there anything that I haven't asked you want to share with our viewers?
No, I mean, no. I think we covered a lot of ground, man. I think we. I saw your talk on at Soho Works with and what resonated me about that talk was one of the panelists mentioned about integrity and the faking it till you make it kind of thing.
So Sabrina Horn is kind of like a mentor to me. She wrote a book called Fake It, Don't Fake It. Excuse me. And it was this whole panel discussion on people's experience with starting their own businesses, being authentic to yourself, dealing with imposter syndrome, everything involving integrity. Yeah,
I mean, for me, the integrity part of just like, again, I go back to this. Our core values for IGC is just that we call it 4H, right? And so when we were able to align, how do we replicate ourselves, and how do we get our management teams to understand our way of thinking and guide them. So it was about, at the end of the day, it was about integrity, but at 4H, being human, being hospitable, being humble, and being hungry.
Yeah.
And we use that as basically like a compass, but aligning, if I could say that, any entrepreneurs or anybody kind of like going back to your core beliefs and am I making the right decision?
Staying true to yourself.
And don't believe everything you think.
Right.
That is an everyday struggle, I think, for everybody. Yeah. So there's nobody's mastering that.
Sure. Okay. So last segment of this interview is 5 rapid fire questions. So
I thought those were the 5.
No, I got 5 rapid fire for you. Ready?
Yeah.
What's your favorite city other than New York City?
Miami.
Okay. That's been a few people said that.
I like Miami.
I like Miami too. I hung out with you once in Miami.
We did hang in Miami.
Yeah, once.
That's
right. If you could do any other profession, what would it be? Anything.
Good question. First thing that came in my mind was be a fireman.
Okay. I don't know why that came to my mind too for you. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's that stereotype, Irish.
An Irish from Queens.
Yeah. Irish from Queens.
Exactly.
Man.
Okay. What's your biggest fear?
Biggest fear, not leaving. My biggest fear is losing my patience with my children.
Okay, and that's a very rational fear, right?
Yeah, and you do. You lose your patience with your kids,
I'm
man.
Sure.
And so,
I
but
see my twin brother do it with, like, kids will act out, and I see him like catching himself sometimes, like,
yeah,
yeah,
you forget like
yeah.
when you were a kid and like
Yeah.
what adults really are, man. We're scary monsters.
Yeah, it's true.
So, and I know I'm extra scary, but yeah,
That's I never thought about that as being I don't have kids, so that's actually a great response.
thanks, pal.
I like that. If you could open up any venue concept, anything, and you have to worry about money, just your own passion, what would it be?
Can I close them or?
What's that?
No, I'm saying.
Oh, if you close your venues.
We already have enough venues open.
No, but I'm saying like not a real one, like something that would be just for you, that you would like. You don't care if anyone else likes. You don't care if it makes money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, we're doing it. So my friends of mine are in the Poconos.
Yeah.
They bought 40 acres. We invested with them, and they're doing a 31. Their plan is to do tiny cabins.
Yeah.
And there's this one stable that's this big house that they converted into like this beautiful house, but like you could sleep where the stables were. So what venue is something like that balances nature with obviously the perks of modern day.
Right.
Yeah, all of those. Like I'm not a big camping guy, but I'll camp in a.
Well, it's funny. Hurry up with that because we did a couple of glamping weekends and great campgrounds that we worked with, but we want more options.
Yeah.
So let's make that happen, man.
For sure.
The last question is, what's your favorite food? And about
Well,
the sea, what'd you bring?
What did I bring? I
Yeah.
mean, that's a tough question for a 300-pound Irish guy. So, and I share. I bring bread.
Bread.
Okay, and I'll tell you why.
I love bread. Bread's great.
The bread is the basis for every type of favorite food there is, if you think about it, right? So bread, ham, egg, and cheese, bagels, all about that. Pizza, bread. What's great with bread is everything, right? There's nothing that goes wrong with bread. So I thought about like my favorite food, or roasted chicken, or whatever. Dude, the basis is bread. Mm-hmm. So there's a bakery across the street. I'm like,
you're not the first person to bring that. We had Amber bring bread and butter, but bread from Balthazar, butter from
of course, from
Irish.
Balthazar.
What's butter again?
The Kerrygold.
Kerrygold butter.
Yeah, there was like a run on that during the bulletproof coffee stop.
No,
like, you couldn't get your hands on it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's so good. Like it's so basic. My mom is French, so obviously I love bread too.
Every culture has bread.
Absolutely.
Some bread is better than others. Like,
of course,
Irish bread. I don't know. Italians would be like, that's not real bread.
What is Irish bread like?
It's hard. You need lots of Kerrygold butter.
Yeah. It's more like a cracker than it is a bread.
Yeah, Irish soda bread. It's funny. When we were at school at Fordham, like we were, Fordham University, we go into the bakeries on Alva Avenue. Like, hey, Ma, do you have any Irish soda bread here? They're like, get the one. That's not bread. Get out of here. Like, oh, Ma, come on.
Yeah.
But it's bread. Always.
Bread's great, and I can eat tons of that. So, but I appreciate you coming on this show and taking your time to make your way all the way to Jersey for me.
Anytime. Anything for you, bro.
And let's get some more stuff done between Outsiders, you, and then anything even outside of that.
Absolutely.
All right.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Eat my bread. Peace out, guys. Nice.